Z. This is Dayspring with Power of X-Men.
This is Sailor Tortilla.
This is Miracle from Magical Melody.
This is Brooke with the Sailor Moon Fan Network, and you're tuned in to Double Moonlight Justice
with Z and Grayson.
Z!
G!
Oh my gosh. Can't believe this is happening.
It's you and me both. I've been thinking about it all morning, like,
I've been thinking about this all week.
Screaming.
Oh my gosh, I'm just like so nervous.
I was literally telling A that, like, A, I'm so anxious about this, because he sent that, the photo that she sent me yesterday. He sent it in our little chat, and he was like, I'm intrigued, do tell more. Like, well.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't stop smiling. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, so I was like, oh yeah, we gotta introduce ourselves.
Me too. So how you been? I know we're gonna ask that in like 5 minutes, but how you been?
Like yesterday was so busy, and I was like, I just want to sit down and write like Justice questions. I don't want to work.
I don't want to do nothing. I want to get stuff for this.
I was like, oh no, I don't want to do any work. I don't want to do the work today.
I don't really want to do the work today.
It's a 2-star.
It's a 2-star. It's a 2-star.
Oh my god.
What?
I'm writing this intro and I said, I'm your host Z, and I'm like, you're not Z.
We're actually doing this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like it's sitting here with this thing. We're actually doing this. Oh my goodness.
I was like, wait, what was that?
I was going through my stories.
Putting some final notes
Okay. Sound like Squidward after he got beat up by that sea bear. Okay. 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 Don't let me. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Don't cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna try
No.
my diddly dangest to not cry.
We're gonna time out if you cry. Okay. Start in 3, 2, 1.
Moonlight Justice.
What's up, Sailor Guardians? Welcome back to the second season of the Moonlight Justice podcast, now known as Double Moonlight Justice. Moonlight Justice is a fan podcast dedicated to the hit anime series Sailor Moon. I'm your host, Grayson.
And I'm your co-host, Z.
Oh my gosh, I never thought we'd say that ever again.
Literally!
Oh my gosh. So I know that some of the people are wondering why Double Moonlight Justice. Seeing as this is our second season and you now have 2 hosts, I think that Double Moonlight Justice is a good fit, and it still sticks to the original title, just with a little flair to it.
Yeah.
Here on Moonlight Justice, we go by 3 principles known as the power of 3. 1, we will practice controversy with civility. We will respectfully discuss our thoughts and opinions without a feeling of judgment. 2, things can always be discussed constructively and positively. And 3, we will not engage in racism, xenophobia, phobias, triggers. However, these topics might be addressed in correlation with our discussion. We'll be sure to provide a disclaimer to our audience so that way they are aware. So Z, have you been lately?
Gee, I've been everywhere in terms of what I've been working on. It's been working on the 2024. It's working on the 2024 cosplays that I had planned for this year. So it's been a lot of Princess Tiana work specifically. A whole lot of Princess Tiana work.
Right, so you've been doing Princess Tiana stuff. I know that you
Yeah.
are doing your OC story. You want to tell people about that?
Oh, sure, why not? Okay, so I have I have a OC, a princess OC specifically. Her name is Annabella. And currently the Gem of Fall Crest story is happening with my OC Annabella, or Sincerely Admiral's Prince OC Edmund Quinn, and then Jay or Red Gold Cosplay's Princess OC Blake. The three of them are traveling and getting on a quest to obtain the Gem of Fall Crest because Annabella's kingdom, the kingdom of Certere, has been under attack by this sorceress named Jane Bardot. But the ending is nigh, and I'm really excited because a lot of stuff is getting shared.
Season 2. Season 2.
There totally is definitely most likely no season 2. There's no such thing. Season 2 does not exist.
To be continued.
There is no 2 season. I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing's been planned. Totally.
Oh my goodness. So I've been busy with work.
Work.
I am gearing up for promotion. So
Okay, let's go. I'm ready.
Yes.
Promotion.
Right. So I applied. I'm hoping to get an interview, and we'll see what goes from there. But wish me luck.
Big.
I am the unofficial official fan club president of the Magical Melody fan club.
I was gonna ask.
So I've been helping Miracle with the Discord, and we have some goodies coming up for the fandom. So we're really excited. I'm actually working on a Magical Melody Master Dog, which is going to be it's basically my Bible, but I'll be using it to kind of guide the Magical Melody wiki that I made, because Miracle was like, I don't know if Magical Melody made it when she has a wiki page. Well, I was like, okay, we'll make a wiki page.
So yeah, we'll do that right quick, easy, light work.
I am also working on a original character story.
Ooh.
It is called La Chess Romantique. It is a story that's near and dear to my heart. I've been writing and doing character design. I've been sharing some of my designs on my Instagram to my close friends. I've not shared anything publicly, so this is the first time that I've actually said the title of the story out loud.
Wow.
So
Well, I love it. I love it very much. That's cool.
So I'm really excited to see what happens. But my goal for this year is to definitely be more creative. And I'm hoping that I'll have a first draft of the story and the character designs done by the end of the year. That's my goal. And I wasn't expecting Moonlight Justice to come back, so this is definitely an added bonus.
Yeah. A little sprinkle on the side.
Right. So other than all the good things that are going on with you, Z, how are you feeling?
Oh, it's been such a long time since that question's been asked in this way. Oh my gosh! Okay. I'm feeling okay. This year so far has started off on, I'd like to think, a pretty positive note. So I'm feeling okay. I have some weeks where I'm like, dang, I don't like getting wombo comboed like this. This is kind of disrespectful. But I've been feeling okay. I've definitely been feeling more upbeat. And I'm kind of taking it day by day. But I have definitely been feeling pretty Gucci for the most part. What about you?
Same here.
Good.
Pretty good for the most part. Like life, it's, there's no such thing as a constant in life.
Mhm.
Life ebbs and flows. We feel our ups, we feel our downs. So for the most part, I've had like a pretty steady baseline with a couple of ebbs and flows, but nothing like too drastic or dramatic or anything like that.
Good.
I know that around the time of our last episode, I ended up moving into my own apartment.
Woo-hoo.
So I am no longer living with my family. The pandemic times have ended. So I'm living on my own. And people ask me like all the time, like, what's it like living on your own? And I'm like, I've lived by myself before. This is not anything new. But after staying with my parents, like for the entire pandemic, we're talking about like 2-3 years time. I think the one thing I cannot get used to is it being quiet. So
It's pure silence.
So I know that before we started recording, you were like sending texts to your family, like, I'm gonna be recording the podcast. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Because you remember during our podcast, my dad would knock on the door, like, what are you doing in there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My siblings would show up, but I just like to give a heads up. Because sometimes
Right.
they're like, hey, how are you doing? I'm good.
So yeah, it's not, so I didn't have anybody to let know except myself. So I was like,
Well, that's good. Oh, no.
I don't have to put a sign on my bedroom door like, do not disturb recording podcast. Not that my dad cares anyway. He was knocking on the door. What are you doing in there? You're interrupting the podcast, Dad.
I'm hollering. I'm hollering in the club. Oh my goodness.
You definitely have to address the elephant in the room. And I know that some of our audience members are wondering, where's Lumi? So just to keep it brief and straight to the point, Lumi decided to leave the podcast last season. That was one of the reasons why we ended up kind of abruptly. It was abrupt. I can't say kind of. It was abruptly. For our audience, it was definitely a very hard decision to make. But it was probably the best thing to do at that point in time, given how things happened so suddenly. And we had great support from our peers when we decided to make that decision. I'm glad that we were able to end off on a positive note. We did an interview with Miracle and Bryce and Brittany and Laura from the Magical Melody series. It was so much fun. So it was definitely good to end on a fun, it was so fun editing that episode and hearing all the outtakes and all the banter back and forth.
It was
great.
really
Cool.
It was really fun.
I think that because we are so supported by our Discord, the Sailor Moon Guide, Discord family, Dayspring for Power of X-Men, Brooke from Sailor Moon Fan Network, Sailor Tortilla. I know, right? They were like, just continue just the two of you and keep going and stuff like that. And I was like, it just didn't feel right to do it at that point in time.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that, we're doing this now because Sailor Tortilla was actually the one like commenting on one of my, was it an Instagram post? And she was not me wishing that, you guys would come back. And I was like, I'm not going to do this without Z. And Z was like giving like the side eye emojis, like, I'm not even going to broach this subject right now.
Yeah. Oh, look on.
And then randomly, I was like joined your live. I don't know what I was doing, but I saw you on live and I was like, I'm gonna pop in and say hi to Z. And
you did.
And then Z, like out of nowhere, was like, gee, I've been thinking about the podcast. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, do you want to come back? And she's like, yes, I want to come back. I'm like, oh my God. Here we are. So yes, we love Lumi. We will wish her nothing but the best. And we didn't want to like leave you guys on a cliffhanger and be like, we're not Beyonce and Destiny's Child. We're not gonna not tell you what happened.
Screaming, not Beyonce.
Right, like there's no non-disclosures here, but she decided to leave for her own personal reasons. Mm-hmm. We respect that. We love her. We wish her the best. So, now that we're back as Double Moonlight Justice, I think it's time that we get reacquainted. So I took some time to listen to our first and last episodes from our first season to kind of like get an idea of how we wanted to, reintroduce ourselves, reacquaint the audience with who we are, as well as new members. Like, it's really cool to be back and like setting everything back up, it's so crazy. I was looking at our Buzzsprout, which is the host for our podcast, and they were like, we've had like over 200 downloads in the past 90 days, so people are still listening to us.
You guys, seriously?
Yes, people are still downloading and listening, and our Tumblr page actually got a whole bunch of reblogs, like our intros and some of our episode posts have been reposted on Tumblr. So I'm like really surprised that people are still like listening, because I was like, hey, we gone, ain't nobody gonna listen to us again.
Yeah. Okay. I ain't gonna cry because I said I wasn't gonna cry, but that like makes me like really freaking emotional. Like y'all are still actively listening and stuff. Like dang.
Right. And so I'd like release a teaser for us, because when Z was like, I want to come back, I was like, say less. So I did the teaser, and then Z updated our logo. And then I finally did like a teaser trailer for our Instagram. Well, for my Instagram, I changed it. So, but the support, like, Power of X-Men is excited. Dayspring is excited. Sailor Tortilla, Brooke. I was not expecting the response in the comments. It's like so weird. Like we're getting downloads. Tumblr reposts, people are commenting, they're excited, people are saying that we're their favorite podcast, and I'm like, oh, I never expected to be a favorite. We've mainly just been doing this for fun. We weren't expecting like a following or anything like that.
Yeah. So it's really a shock. I'll say, at least for me personally, I don't want to speak for you, G, but it's been a shock. Like the number of DMs I've gotten from peeps like Michi, like, yeah, if y'all need anything, let me know, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Y'all are wonderful.
Yeah, we got a good response. Sailor Tortilla was celebrating our return on X/Twitter, so it's
y'all
really
are
cool
wonderful. Hearts all around.
Let's get reacquainted. So
right.
Z.
Yes, G.
How did we meet?
Oh, can I tell this story?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so it was the spring of 2022. I was a senior in college at this point in time, but I was on TikTok, as a lot of the youth and other people are, and I had started getting a lot of G's edits on my For You page, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, this is pretty neat. And I got ecstatic because a lot of the edits were PGSM related or just Sailor Moon videos, and that made me more excited because oftentimes when there are Sailor Moon edits, you don't really see a whole lot of PGSM, let alone Sailor Moon stuff. So I was getting giddy as heck. And a lot of people were also sending me G's edits like, oh, look, it's Sailor Moon, you like this? Or look, it's PGSM. I was like, oh my gosh, this person's so cool. I want to befriend them, but I also don't want to I love PGSM and I'm very vocal about it, so I didn't want to scare them off or anything. So I was trying so hard to be very casual about it, but I know I was not casual about it. Because I remember being in your comment section with some of the Mew songs that you shared, like, oh my gosh, this is from this musical. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you liked Sailor Mew. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you liked PGSM. And then we became mutuals, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. So yes. So for those that don't know, I created the Sailor Moon Guy TikTok, which is known for its edits. So initially it was not something I planned to do. I was on my personal page. And the one thing I didn't see on TikTok was a lot of Sailor Moon edits. And maybe I just wasn't on the right side of TikTok then. But
no, there's definitely more now.
Right. So the one common thing I see with a lot of Sailor Moon edits is that they're very cutesy or fun, or they're like, the videos that kind of like match the music, kind of like the beats and stuff like that. So there wasn't anything like too like nitty gritty, like not anything too dark or like kind of like, Sailor Moon's light and fun, but it also has a dark side to it too.
Yeah.
And so I posted the clip when Sailor Moon became Super Sailor Moon at the end of the third season S in the 90s anime.
Yes.
and it went viral. It went viral on my personal page, and I was like, oh no, this is too much.
Oh no, don't look at me. I don't want
Yeah, it was definitely too much. So I ended up changing my personal page to the Sailor Moon guy, and I ended up kind of like just starting off from there. I was like, I wanted to make my own little corner in the TikTok world, and I didn't really see a lot of edits that I wanted to see from Sailor Moon, so I started doing my own. And I was like, this is just for fun. If you watch it, great. If you like it, great. If you don't, fine, whatever. Like I'm not monetizing it. I'm not making any money off of it. It's all in good fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wanted to be very intentional about how I was approaching the Sailor Moon guy, because I was like, people tend to focus more on just Crystal, or they focus on, just the transformations from the 90s anime and stuff like that. So I was like, I want to be kind of like more comprehensive. I want to include some Sarah Miu, and I want to include Crystal, and I want to include, the Deke dub, and, I wanted to encompass everything that I liked about Sailor Moon. And it's funny because I had just watched all the musicals during the pandemic. So
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, so shout out to seaofserenity.net, because that was the way that I was able to download and watch all of the musicals. So I was really excited. I don't even think I finished yet. I think I still have some. I think I have like the last bits of Marina Moon.
Okay.
For the Bandai era, but I've watched all the Nell K. I watched the Nogi 46 ones.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely really excited about that. But yes, in the midst of all that, I was getting the comments from Sailor Moon Turtle, Miss Underground.
Yeah.
And
this cosplayer all up in my comment section. She's showing up a lot.
She's showing up a lot, and honestly, she was the only one commenting on my post at the time. So I was just like, I was like, oh, so nice. Someone's like, like for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a person.
Real.
They like the edits, And so I went to C's page, and I was like, oh, she's a cosplayer. That's so cool. And so I don't know how I ended up watching. I think it was maybe your latest video, but she did the Power Rangers Zeo Tanya transformation. And I was like, oh my God, she likes Power Rangers. Like,
I love me some Power Rangers.
A woman after my own heart. Like,
oh yes, we love Power Rangers here.
And she did. It was just so clean to me. I was like, oh, I love it. I felt like a kid again when I used to do, because I used to play Power Rangers when I was a kid. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream come true. Like, it's so cool to see, like, people do their own take on Power Rangers and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I wish I could have done this when I was a kid. It's so cool to do stuff like that. So yes, I was like, okay, I have to add her back because she followed me. I think she's like one of the first followers. And so for me, it was like when I started the account, and usually when I start any social media account, I try to follow back the people that are following me, because they're usually like the first. And so Z was definitely one of the first people that I followed back, became mutuals. And then I saw Taylor Jupiter for PGSM, and I was like, ah!
Oh yeah. I remember that plain as day too.
And I was like, okay. Goodness. And it's so rare to find someone that likes PGSM, so I think that just made it that much more cooler. It was like, oh my gosh, she likes PGSM. Not very many people know about PGSM, so it was really cool to kind of like connect with you in that way too.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was beautiful. I was like, oh, somebody else I know this show. Yay! it's such a small handful.
Right.
A handful of us.
So that's how we met. But what was your first impression of me, Z?
Oh, that you were cool as heck. I mean, anybody that knows PGSM is automatically pretty lit in my book. But you're also just, you were lit. You were creative. I love seeing like you posting the scenes, both with PGSM and Sarah Mew, and like the different edits that you did. Like they were always creative and just a different perspective of Sailor Moon, and I thought that was really cool. That's it. Cool. Otherwise, I would just genuinely be rehashing stuff and just saying the same thing over and over. But I thought you were really cool. I thought you were very creative, and just I don't know. I like seeing things a little bit below the surface, because your edits have some meaning to them. especially with the audios and stuff that you choose to use. I'm like, that's a really different way of portraying and showcasing this character. I like that.
Yeah, I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to think outside the box when it came to Sailor Moon edits. And so I even take it a step further and try different music. I'll mix it with different animes. I'll even do what if scenarios and kind of like mix up the footage and stuff like that to kind of give a different perspective on how something could have happened. So that was a lot of fun. My first impression of Yuzi was,
oh goodness,
I definitely had to commend you for your creativity, because I was like, when I saw your Jupiter transformation, I was like, she made her own jewelry star bracelet.
Yes. Yes. I still have it too. I see my drawer.
And I was just like, I couldn't help but admire, because I was like, she is not gonna let this get her down. And she's gonna be PGF Jupiter if it's gonna be the last thing she does. She was like, I can't get the jewelry star bracelet. I'm just gonna make one.
Literally, I had to hand sew it together too. So some of it was glue, I think, that I had, and I also literally hand sewed the green gem onto the thing. So help me! Oh my goodness, it was something.
So I think that was I was drawn to you because your creativity, and it's you're pretty new in the cosplay space too. So I was really shocked to know that you made that costume yourself. That was your first Jupiter costume, right?
Actually, it's my second.
That I
made? That was the first one I've made.
Yes.
But I've done Jupiter for a minute.
So I know that. I think reading your comments or the caption, you were like, "I made this fuku," and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's legit!"
Yeah.
I think it was really cool to engage with you that way, and I know that when I started joining your lives, I think you were one of the first people I joined live too, because I never been on TikTok live either. And so I was hyping you up. I'm like, yeah, so we're gonna get you a jewelry star bracelet. We were gonna get you a real one.
I remember that too.
One day we're gonna make you official.
Look at me now. Now I gotta make another fuku.
Right.
Yep.
Given we've known each other for how long? It's been 2-3 years?
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Yeah. So 3 words that describe your co-host. I think I'll go first.
Oh, okay.
3 words. So Z is very kind, and kind/compassionate. I think those 2 words definitely go with Z, but I definitely count them as one word. They're synonymous with each other. Kind and compassionate, generous, sensitive, but in a good way. You're not too sensitive, but you're very in touch with your emotions. Not afraid to express yourself. You're not afraid to cry.
Yeah.
Even though I tell you not to cry.
All the time with the dang
all the
parrot.
time. So a little insider. So if you were ever on my Instagram or my TikTok, and I get crying emojis all the time, not just from Z, but from a lot of people. So I would always oh, don't cry. And so I was on my personal page, and I came across this parrot called Ramses, and he has a little bird friend. I forgot the other bird's name, but the bird makes a lot of noise and will cry a lot. And Ramses will go, "No crying. You're gonna go time out if you cry." And so I was like, that's kind of how I imagine myself sounding like that when I'm in the comments, don't cry, no crying, and stuff like that. So now instead of saying don't cry or it's gonna be okay, I just put the parrot emoji. 3 parrot emojis, and so I let people I try to post that video as much as I can on my story. If you see the parrot emojis, it's my number 1 rule: no crying.
Yep, and safe to say, I get those emojis a lot. A whole lot.
Even when it's valid and warranted, I still say it.
Literally all the time.
So Z, how would you describe me in 3 words?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I would say that you are very innovative when it comes to the creativity that you have. in your thought process. You're very innovative. I'm gonna leave it at that, because otherwise I'm gonna take like 5 minutes. And I also see you and describe you as very patient. You're a very patient person. Like, you always hear people out. This isn't my word, but I'm gonna continue with my flow of words. But you're also very methodical. Being patient and methodical, they go very hand in hand. And then I'd also say that you're very gratuitous, or generous, and charitable. Like, you just always provide for people, whether it's an ear or something more physical. I'm not going to cry about that, because I'll probably share that later. But you're just a very giving person, and you do it because you want to, and you feel it through your heart, and I think that's one.
Yeah, I don't know why I am that way. I just do. I just randomly give people things for no reason. It's not because I want anything in return. Honestly, if I want anything out of it, it's your reaction. It's definitely your reaction. If I want anything out of it, I definitely want your reaction.
Well, I know you get a kick out of mine. We'll talk about that later.
I know that one time when I was living with my parents and I had to give up my storage because storage was becoming way too expensive for me to upkeep. And I love X-Men. So as much as I love Sailor Moon, I love X-Men. I love Marvel. And so I had I have an extensive like Sailor Moon collection. Not as extensive as Sailor Tortilla or Brooke, but extensive in its own little in my own way, it's extensive. But I also was collecting X-Men stuff. So I had a bunch of action figures and stuff that I had been buying prior. And so when I had to close my storage, there wasn't any room in our house to really store those things. And I had to make the hard decision of selling them or giving them away. And I didn't have time to list them on eBay and, haggle with people to get them sold and mail them off and stuff like that. So I thought of my friend Dayspring from the Power of X-Men podcast. And I was like, if anybody's going to appreciate and is deserving of these things, it's definitely him. Mm-hmm. So I sent him like a big box. It cost me like almost $200 to send that box up there. Wow. That's how big the box was. I think between the box and the packing and the shipping, it was pretty expensive to send off, but it was worth it. They're with Dayspring now. They have a good home. Now that I'm living on my own, I can start my collection over.
That's good. Yay!
Yeah, so I already started buying some X-Men action figures. Like I found some from when that were being made since I was a kid at a retro video game store. So I was able to get those and a couple of pre-orders. A couple of pre-orders are coming out through Hasbro Pulse, so I'm really excited about those. So I'm really excited about getting my X-Men collection started. I have no idea where I'm going to put these things, even though I have my game room set up. I'm already running out of room. I'm already running out of room, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'm being overzealous with this. I was like, I'm going to make it happen, whatever. But this next talking point is my favorite. Because Z is the one that inspired it. And I say it every time I ask this question because it never occurred to me to ask because I assumed that everybody had the same Sailor Moon journey. And Z rose into the challenge and was like,
Literally, So you thought.
So Z, tell us how you got into Sailor Moon.
Well, I got into Sailor Moon when I was a freshman in high school, and I actually got into Sailor Moon through PGSM. So long story short, my friend's sister actually recommended Sailor Moon to me because she assumed it'd be something that I'd probably like and get into. So I got on YouTube. I found the live action Henshin. That was really cool. It reminded me of Power Rangers. So at that point in time, all of PGSM was on YouTube. Somebody had put all of the episodes together. So it was like 2 episodes per video. The quality was like 140, 240p. I didn't care. I watched all the episodes, cried my little eyeballs out at certain points, and from there I was further sold. I ended up finding the Kiwari Super Live. I watched the dance lesson video. I stumbled across the character / image songs. I consumed that was PGSM related because I loved Sailor Moon and I loved PGSM. And then from there, that's when I started finding Crystal and the musicals, because at that point in time when I was getting into Sailor Moon, I want to say Crystal had just started airing or just finished airing season 2, so I was able to catch up with the first season and get into the second, and then I watched the third one when it came out. And then the Nelke musicals were still really big and really ongoing. I want to say by the time I got into the Nelke musicals, I want to say Petite Étrangère had just came. I don't want to say I was in a golden spot, but I was low-key in a golden spot when it came to get to the other versions. And then, you know, I watched the 90s and then got to the manga. But I started with PGSM. That was my introduction to Sailor Moon.
You started with PGSM.
Yes.
And it was exclusively in Japanese. There was no
Yep.
English adaptation of it whatsoever.
Nope.
You watched Crystal after that, season 1 and 2, and then you got into the Nelke musicals first, or the Bandai first?
I want to see. This is why I wish I checked my little diary because I know I wrote about this. Fun tidbit. I'm pretty sure it might have been Bandai because I think a lot of Bandai musicals were on my YouTube recommendations.
Right.
Because of watching.
I know Lonely
BDSM.
Distance, and I know Lonely Distance had some musicals on there, so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some of the Bandai first. So when you watched the 90s anime, did you watch the Viz Media dub, or did you watch the original Japanese?
I watched the original Japanese.
Cool. And so, have you watched the Viz dub at all?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I love the Viz dub very much for Sailor Moon. I think it's wonderful, personally.
And have you watched any of the Deep dub?
I have. I have. I went down that rabbit hole. I have. I saw all the memes, and I want to know what the memes were.
So did you watch all of it, or were you just able to watch like bits and pieces?
Oh, I watched all of it.
Okay.
All of it. All of it.
I guess it's kind of like your journey kind of like started like, you know, kind of like backwards from mine in a sense.
Yeah.
Like I am in my late 30s. I'm 39. So when Sailor Moon first came out, it was the Deke dub. Like that was the only thing I had access to in the 90s was the Deke dub. So that was the definitive version of Sailor Moon in the US. So I watched that pretty much through like my high school years. Season 1 and season 2. There was no season 3. It wasn't season 3 by Cloverway, which is not the same company as Deke. Didn't come out until 1999, 2000.
Wow.
And I remember I was with my good friend Brent. Shout out Brent. Yeah, we were hanging out. We were hanging out like we normally do after school, getting ready for Toonami. Sailor Moon was getting ready to come on. We was like, okay, it's gonna be another rerun of season 1 or season 2. Like we didn't know what we were gonna get, and then out of nowhere, it was the first episode of S.
Ooh.
So it was the first episode of S by Cloverway. I lost all control. I was like, oh my god, I was screaming for Brent. Brent was downstairs cooking. I was like, get up here, they're showing a new episode. It was so exciting.
Yes, no.
And you know, between the time that Cloverway debuted the S season and the Deke dub, there was a good chunk of time where we were getting into the Japanese version of Sailor Moon. It was really hard to come by. Because there wasn't really anything, there wasn't streaming, there was no YouTube, so it's like you either had to download them through your Napster, or your Kazaa, or your LimeWire
Dang.
to get these episodes, or you had to haggle on eBay for someone to buy like burned CDs with all the episodes on them. So that was the only way that I was able to watch the original Japanese anime. Shout out to VKLL, the original fan subber of Sailor Moon. So it was either through eBay, download software, or you had to find the bootleg VHS tapes. That was the only way you could really watch the Japanese version of Sailor Moon. So by that time, Brent and I had already seen pretty much all of Sailor Moon.
Wow.
So when Cloverway came out, while we were excited that we were getting an English adaptation of Sailor Moon, especially the S season. We knew for a fact going in that it was going to be S and Supers. We were not going to get stars at that point in time. It was just not feasible. Sailor Moon was definitely catered to younger audiences rather than teenage audiences in Japan. So there's a lot of editing, there's a lot of censorship. I know we talked about this before, but it's like we were wondering how they were going to portray Uranus and Neptune. So
Yeah.
in our mind, and mind you, we were like maybe 16, 17 at the time. We're like, they're gonna make them best friends because it's like it's a kid show. So it's like, we know they're not gonna be gay or lesbians. So that seems like the most logical step. So imagine our surprise when Terry Hawks did not return as the voice of Sailor Moon. So we were very surprised by that. We were very surprised that they used the original Japanese music in the Cloverway season. So we were like very surprised by that. It blew our mind when we found out that they portrayed Uranus and Neptune as cousins.
Yeah.
So it's like basically maybe like a strong 6 out of 10 I would give the Cloverway seasons, because it definitely, and I've actually been learning more about it because recently. So a good friend of mine, Eric McLeod, who is working on Project Nostalgia, which is it's a proper remaster of the Sailor Moon series. So it's like Blu-ray, high definition, color correction, AI enhancement. And he lives in Mexico. And the Mexican dub of Sailor Moon is like top tier, like number 2 to Japan. Like that's how popular.
Oh wow.
So, he would share some of the Spanish clips from Sailor Moon with me, and it is amazing. Like it's so good. They use the Deke dub name, so Serena, Darien. One of the things that kind of like grinds my gears about the Cloverway Super season was that instead of saying Super Moon Crisis Power like they did in the Pioneer dub movies, they use Moon Cosmic Dream Action, and I swear my teeth are literally hurting.
Oh
right
my
now.
goodness.
And so I was like, that's so stupid. Why would they do that? Like that doesn't make any sense. So get this. It is a translation of the Mexican transformation phrase that they use. Because Cloverway is the company that handled the Mexican dub.
Oh!
So that's why we got that's why we got the Japanese music, and that's why we got some of, the different transformations, stuff like that, transformation phrases, because it was based on the Mexican dub more than it was the Japanese dub.
Wow! The more
So I was
know.
like, you see, you learn more things, Welcome to Moonlight Justice.
Welcome.
The dubs were my gateway. Japanese was definitely stole my heart. Like it's definitely my preferred version of Sailor Moon anime. PGSM came on. So after it all ended, PGSM was the only thing to come out of the Sailor Moon franchise. Shout out to Eternal Ruth, because if it wasn't for her, there was no way I could have seen the airings of PGSM. And so, like I was saying, there was no YouTube. I say this all the time. I literally had to download like multiple parts, like 5-minute clips of a 25-minute episode of PGSM. No subs. I had to watch the show. I had to go to the synopsis website and read about what happened, so I know what was going on. So it was definitely an experience. A lot of fun. PGSM definitely confused the hell out of me. I love it to death, but it was coming off the anime and the manga. Like I knew I had a hard time figuring out where PGSM was going. So I was like, okay, it's not necessarily following the manga, and it's not necessarily following the anime either. So my expectations were all over the place. I was really confused because I I was confused initially watching PGSM because Usagi gets her Prism Heart brooch or something like that.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Cosmic Heart Compact, and it's not.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is different. I have no idea what's going to happen now. So even when PGSM ended, and let me tell you, PGSM confused me about its endings too, because when the Dark Mercury arc ended, it made it look like it was the end of the show.
Like that's it.
So I was like, it can't be over.
There's so much to do.
Right. So I was like, so that really confused me because it was a very special ending to.
It really was.
To celebrate the Mercury reuniting with the group. So I was like, is this the end of the first season? Is this the end of the show? I'm so confused. So I was really confused about that. And then let me tell you like how geeked we were when they said see you again at the end of the first season. So we were like, oh, season 2 is coming. No season 2.
No season 2.
just like Annabella and her friends. No season 2.
Yeah, no season. I'm quoting that now. No season 2. I'm telling the gang that after this. No season 2.
Right. So we did get a special act. So
which was nice.
We did get the special act movie, which kind of like summed things up. And so it was definitely a bittersweet experience. It was just like it had trouble finding its footing when it first started, but it definitely found like its ground, its like foundation when it came to like the drama and how they were telling the story and how they portrayed the characters. So I think that PGSM probably has the strongest character development out of the entire Sailor Moon franchise.
I agree.
It took the source, it made it its own, and it introduced, themes and characters and characterizations that had never been seen before, and it worked for them. Yes, so it wasn't until like what 10 years later when Crystal got announced.
Yeah.
And I was so geeked because not only was it the return of the Sailor Moon anime, it was based on the manga, so it's going to be a manga. So I was like, oh my gosh, all the stuff that we saw in the manga we're actually going to see in anime form. Kotono Mitsuishi returned as the voice of Sailor Moon, which was definite plus. I was really excited. It has been a journey between Crystal seasons 1 through 3, the Eternal movies, and Cosmos, which just came out June of last year. Was it June, July? June? Yeah, June, around Usagi's birthday. June. Yeah. And I just got the DVD Blu-ray around Christmas. So I finally got to watch Cosmos around Christmas. So much has happened. So it's definitely been a journey. I can't believe, like 30 years. 30 years over, 30, like 31. It's been over 20 for me, but it's been a 30-year strong franchise.
Yeah.
So given our journeys and how we got into Sailor Moon Z, out of all, I think I know your answer. But it's like 30 years worth of content, 30 years of content, different iterations and versions, dubs and subs, and over the years, what is your favorite version of Sailor Moon?
Oh, well, it's obviously Saban Moon. That one's my favorite version. Totally.
Oh my gosh, you totally threw me on that
one. No, I'm kidding. It's actually PGSM. No surprise. PGSM is my favorite version. Part of it is it's pure nostalgia for me. I mean, it was what got me into Sailor Moon. It's what got me into this franchise as a whole. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the music. I fell in love with the performances. Like, it just had everything in it that just captivated me. Like, literally practicing the poses in high school, like around hallways and stuff, or outside, pretending that I'm about to fight a dang Yoma. So like, it had me captivated, and it's just it's like a comfort series at this point for sure. But it's one of those series that has just really, truly, 100% impacted me, and honestly, like impacted my way of life with how I go about things and how I express myself and how I express my joy for things. Like, I love PGSM. Saban Moon's a runner-up, though. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yeah,
so
PGSM.
yes, within the 30 years of Sailor Moon, there was someone dug up the Saban Moon pilot, which was the proposed
Shouts
version.
out to Raymona.
Yes, thank you, Raymona, who was able to find the pilot footage for the proposed version of the U.S. Sailor Moon, and I'm so glad they did not go with Saban. It was definitely interesting.
If you haven't seen it, it's an experience.
It's definitely an experience, and it's like, I don't know if I would have watched Sailor Moon if it was like that.
It's so interesting though, because it definitely, I think with the times that the 90s were in terms of like the different types of media that were out, it probably low-key, well, I don't know. I don't want to say it would have done well, but I think it definitely fits a lot of the stuff that would have been coming out at that time.
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, between Power Rangers and oh my gosh, what's the name of that show? So there was Power Rangers, and then there was, oh my gosh, I gotta find it. Give me a minute.
What's the show about? Maybe I can help you.
So it's about it's a group of teenagers that transform, just like the Power Rangers.
Is it Beetleborgs?
No, it wasn't Beetleborgs. It wasn't like,
is it VR Troopers?
No, it's like teenage superheroes from Beverly Hills or something like that. It's like it's so like tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills.
That is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. So it was like this live action, like Power Ranger-esque like show.
Mm-hmm.
And they transformed into like these characters that are based on like Zodiac. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I think so, like I was saying, like between like, you know, the tattooed teenage alien fighter from Beverly Hills, Power Rangers, and, you know, like VR Troopers and Beetleborgs, stuff like that, I think like the live action / cartoon mix of what was proposed for Saban Moon definitely falls into that category and niche.
For sure.
But I also think that Power Rangers kind of dictated how Sailor Moon came about, where they took the original Japanese footage and dubbed it instead, much like they did with Power Rangers.
Yep.
So definitely thankful for that. Thank you, Saban.
Thank you very much.
So
what's your favorite version, G?
I know, right? I honestly had to say, yeah. Saban Moon, of course, absolutely.
Of course.
No, I'd like that, you know, your gateway is still your favorite. Deep Dub was my gateway, but it is not my favorite. I have a special place for the Deep Dub in my heart, because it was the one thing that got me into Sailor Moon. But I have to say my favorite version out across all the versions is definitely the 90s anime, followed by the manga. I think that that's probably the best versions in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just seeing how the 90s anime was intended compared to the Deep Dub definitely gave me a deeper appreciation of it. Mm-hmm. And it definitely gives me a lot more content to work with for my edits for Sailor Moon Guy on TikTok. So I'm sorry to my PGSM and my crystal lovers out there, because I do use the 90s anime a lot. There's just a lot more footage to work with and audio for me to like really like splice together. And like I said, like PGSM had trouble finding its footing in like its first few episodes. It didn't really catch itself until like midway, and for me, that's like when Princess Sailor Moon appeared.
Yeah.
So Dark Mercury and Princess Sailor Moon were probably like the turning moments for me for PGSM. So even when I do PGSM, it tends to be a lot more Princess Sailor Moon stuff than it does anything else. Just because she's such a badass, and some of the music and sounds that I find just fit her so well. But I definitely want to be more mindful about how I'm doing PGSM edits in the future. And Crystal Eternal and Cosmos is probably equally as hard to edit because it's so fast paced at times.
Yeah.
And the animation wasn't exactly the best in the first couple of seasons. So I definitely try to find like high quality content to put out there. I don't rip my stuff off of YouTube. I literally find this stuff to download and edit and stuff like that. So yes, the 90s, the Japanese 90s anime and the manga are definitely my favorite versions of Sailor Moon. Speaking of favorites,
oh goodness,
I know that when Z goes live or when I go live or when we go live together, we get these questions all the time.
All the time.
And our answers are never the same. Sometimes they, repeat themselves, but depending on how we feel, they change. So, that being said, Z, who is your favorite Sailor Senshi?
Oh, I'm feeling mighty nostalgic. So my favorite Senshi as of right now is Sailor Jupiter, because she was the first Senshi that I fell in love with when it came to watching Sailor Moon. She was the first Senshi I ever cosplayed, like ever. A lot of people think Sailor Moon was my first Moonie cosplay. It was actually Sailor Jupiter. But I love her very much. She's just amazing. And there's a lot of aspects of her, especially within her PGSM counterpart, that I really relate to.
Okay.
Oh, what about you, G? Who's your favorite Senshi?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, it's so hard to answer that question because it changes, and honestly, it can change from version to version.
Yep.
PGSM, I love Princess Sailor Moon. I just think she's a different take on Sailor Moon as a whole, and I just love how powerful she is. But it's like in the 90s anime, I tend to lean more towards like Mars or Venus. In the manga, I think it's, or like it could be a Sailor Moon. Even the musicals.
Yeah.
Make it a challenge to choose a favorite character.
Oh, it's hard, especially during the musicals. Then,
especially when there's an actress.
Yep.
Cast. There's this particular actress that's tied to.
Characters.
Exactly. It's so hard. So just for sake, I'll have to say like Princess Sailor Moon is probably my favorite. Maybe Sailor Cosmos. Neo Queen Serenity. I don't know what it is about those characters I just like. There's just something about them that draws me to them. So I kind of broke this question down because I think that we tend to get into the weeds when it comes to our, when I say Sailor Moon favorite character, it could be anybody. So we did a favorite Sailor Senshi, but there's more than just Sailor Senshi in the Sailor Moon universe. We also have a bunch of supporting characters and secondary characters. So out of the secondary/supporting characters, who's your favorite?
I'm sounding so PGSM biased, but I just love this
Motoki.
version. Yes, I love Motoki so much. Listen, as a turtle enthusiast, it would be horrible of me to not mention his name at least once. I love what they did with his character, and they made him more involved with Mamoru and even more involved with the girls. Like he supported them, and then everything with Jupiter. I love Motoki. I love him so much in PGSM. Like he truly, he was supporting 100%, even in special acts, supporting. I love him very much. I also love Naru, but Motoki, I love Motoki.
Yes. Not PGSM Naru too.
I will say I'll be different. I will specify Nogi Mew Naru.
Oh.
For a moment. Yeah, I'll say that version of Naru because it's like the first time. Fun fact: I love musicals and I know way too much about them. That's like the first time Naru was ever portrayed on stage, so I'll give her some flowers because I love her portrayal on stage.
And just for a little extra tidbit, the Naru from PGSM was Mercury in Bandai Mew.
Yes, Chigo Kawabe, she was Mercury, I believe, specifically in the third stage of Mew. I want to say third stage. And she also sings the Ouran High School Host Club theme song, so the Japanese version of it. Sakura Kiss. The more you know.
Really?
Yes. The more you know.
Oh my gosh. My favorite supporting character.
Who's your favorite?
I'd probably say Naru.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely I think they had there were some big plans for her because she appeared a lot in the first and second seasons of the Sailor Moon anime, and her little love thing with Nephrite was definitely a emotional moment. I think that's one of the things that tied me to Naru as a standout character and definitely one of my favorite supporting characters. I also like Umino. So I like that the two of them ended together. They were hilarious. And,
they're funny.
they were hilarious in Ami's first love. It was so funny. So I definitely like Naru and Umino. I like that they continued through the series up until Super. So. So we talked about favorite Senshi, and favorite supporting characters. What about your favorite villain? Now I'm not sure how you're going to answer this.
What do you mean you're not sure?
Because I have an idea, but then I have no idea. Okay, I'll answer it similarly to how I answered the previous question, going through different versions, per se. So, I'm biased. I love the Generals. The Generals, they're lit, they're amazing, they're wonderful, but I specifically love their PGSM counterparts. I thought they were amazing, especially with Queen Beryl. That's just amazing, sensational, wonderful. I also love Galaxia, but specifically Galaxia and Lead Movement Finale. Terrifying as heck. I cannot remember the actress's name that portrayed her, but boy howdy, I was shivering my timbers in the theater watching her performance. I think it's Koko Isuzu.
Okay, she commanded and demanded attention, and I loved how she portrayed Galaxia so freaking well. So those are my top two.
Yes, Koko Isuzu played Galaxia in Live Movement Finale. And she was an amazing Galaxia. She's my favorite Miyu Galaxia for sure. Same.
She took over.
She did. She played the heck out of her. And I loved her. And she broke out the gate with that first song. I was like, yes.
Literally,
I rewound so many times just to hear it. That beginning part gets me every time.
Literally. Yeah, she did that well. She did that.
Yeah, so previously, I think that there's different versions. So it's for me in PGSM, Queen Beryl and Kunsight were standouts for me. They're definitely one of my favorite villains. Dark Mercury was definitely a favorite as well. Princess Sailor Moon is not a villain.
I was wondering if you were gonna say something.
I'm gonna get on my soapbox now and tell you now she's not a villain. Shout out to Prima Sylph, who thinks he's the true villain. There's a lot of people that truly think that Prince Sailor Moon is a true villain, and I can see why you think that way. I just don't feel that way.
That's okay.
In the 90s anime, I think it's definitely Nehelenia. So, besides Princess Sailor Moon on my channel, I do tend to use a lot of Nehelenia. I love her voice actress. I think she's probably the definitive version of Nehelenia for me. So, gosh, who played her?
You have villains?
Yes, Yoshiko Sakakibara played 90s anime Nehelenia. And I just love the way she laughs, she has such a deep, vibrato of a voice for Nehelenia, and there's very few villains that you root for, and Nehelenia was one of the villains that I root for. It's just like, she's just so cool, and I'm glad she got redeemed at the end of the '90s anime and stars. I felt like that was a good way to end her character arc. Musicals, I have to say Koko Isuzu's Galexia is probably my favorite. But I loved Queen Beryl in the Nelke Dark Kingdom arc. She's probably the best version of Beryl in my opinion. I think she reminded me of Nehelenia in the sense she had this deep, beautiful voice, and I love the way she sings. She was just so amazing. So yes, Queen Beryl and Galexia are probably my favorite. Nelke, Miyu. I love Vampire from Transylvania.
From the Dracula series.
Yes, from the Bandai musicals.
Yeah.
All of You Shall Die. It was probably one of my first Miyu songs that I ever heard. Had no context whatsoever what it was about. I just knew it was a Sailor Moon song, and I loved
it. Sign me up. I'm hooked.
Right, like yes. Z, you added this question in, and I have an inkling as to why you put it in here. We try to collect our Sailor Moon goodies when we can, and we have the money when it's available and whatnot. So, what is your favorite piece of Sailor Moon merch, and why?
I'm curious to the inkling as to why you think I added that question.
Okay.
I'm very curious.
Okay, so I'm going to say that the reason why you asked what our favorite piece of merch is because you recently got something from me for Christmas. And I feel like you want to talk about it.
Oh, I sure
could be wrong,
talk about
but
it.
I was like,
that's actually not the reason why I added that question.
Okay.
I added it because I know that there's a lot of Mooney collectors that listen in, and I know that you really collect a lot of Mooney merch, so I thought it'd be cool to get insight as to what our favorite merch is, because there is different types of merch out there, so it's not specifically from like one particular form, there's different types. But I would definitely take this opportunity to talk about one of my favorite merch pieces that I own, and it's all because of G. One of my favorites. So G was actually really, really sweet and made me cry in the club. For Chrysler, he got me something that I have been wanting for like literally 10 years, I want to say, 9-10 years, and it's the Star Tambourine from PGSM, because PGSM, naturally, when you sell a show, you gotta sell a show. So there was a lot of merchandise that they released, and one of the things that I had always wanted was a Star Tambourine, and it's the weapon that the Inner Senshi receive later on in the show, because the Yoma get more powered up and they're a lot harder to defeat. And it's such a cool little item, and eventually, spoilers, quote unquote, question mark, at the end of the show, their Star Tambourines turn into weapons, which is really freaking cool. But G got me the Star Tambourine, and it has been one of my favorite things that I own. I love PGSM items, and I'm very honored and I'm very blessed that I have a good little chunk of them, thanks to this wonderful sir over here. But I love the Star Tambourine. It's really, really cute. I put batteries in it because I was like, okay, I gotta see how this works. And it's so adorable. I'm gonna take it with me everywhere whenever I get PGSM Jupiter done, and maybe, fingers crossed, one day I can have a full PGSM group and we can take turns holding it for photos. I'm so excited. It's literally one of my favorite things I own. I stare at it and I'm like, wow, I actually own this. Oh, 14 years. So happy.
So to tack on to that, when I saw the Sailor PGSM Jupiter and her handmade star bracelet, I was like, we gotta get this girl the official merch so she can be the official PGSM Jupiter she's always wanted to be. So I was able to so I lucked out and got a lot of PGSM merchandise for pretty cheap, like $200 for like pretty much the entire set.
That is amazing.
with Saber 1, 2 things that I find without. I didn't get the Venus. I didn't get the Venus hair bow. I don't necessarily need that. But I got the Moonlight stick, and the only reason I got the Moonlight stick or was interested in getting the Moonlight stick was because I saw Z with hers. And it was a lot bigger. It was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be because I remember seeing the PGSM commercial. Yeah, I remember seeing the PGSM commercials for the Moonlight stick, and it looked really tiny. And don't get me wrong, there is a tiny version of the Moonlight stick. Like there's like a cheaper version of the Moonlight stick. It comes like in the 99-cent store, Dollar Tree packaging, where it's like the cardboard backing with the plastic on top. They sell something like that, and I guess that was the version I was looking at because I was like, I don't want it because it looks like a kiddie toy, and
it looks small.
So when I saw Z and I know exactly what video it was too. I'll tell you. So when Z did the PGSN Kingdom Hearts video game intro video, and she brought the Moonlight stick down, I was like, oh wow, that's really good. That Moonlight stick is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. I need to get one because honestly, just kind of like throwing it out there, that is honestly my favorite version of the moon stick / Moonlight stick. Like it is probably the best.
Pretty.
It's my favorite version. The Crystal Crescent was a nice add that PGSM did. I know Crystal tried to capitalize on that in a sense. It doesn't work in Crystal the way it does in PGSM.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they tried.
Yeah, they gave props. You know what? They gave little props. I give them that much.
So yes, I have been buying Sailor Moon merch since the pandemic. Since before the pandemic, but I didn't start buying Proplicas until during the pandemic, after the pandemic. So I have a lot of Sailor Moon merch. I just got the Eternal Tiare Proplica. I don't want to say it's my favorite because it's the newest one. I don't want to say, oh, because it's new, it's my favorite. I'm like, no. Honestly, I think my favorite are the SH Figure Arts action figures. I do not like the Sailor Moon dolls at all.
Which doll?
So there's a lot of them. So there's Jerome, who is on Instagram. He collects Sailor Moon. He has a lot of Sailor Moon dolls. He collects a lot of the 90s merchandise from Japan, the petite soldiers and the Sailor Moon dolls, stuff like that. I share his content on my IG because I think it's really cool that he gets that stuff. I do not like the Barbie, that's the closest thing I can relate to is the Barbie version of Sailor Moon dolls.
Oh, I love those dolls, but specifically the ones that came out in 2023. I like
right. So it's so there's the lifestyle dolls that are pretty close to the Crystal anime, but it's the gloves look weird to me. I just don't like the dolls whatsoever. It's such a weird. It's just not my jam. It's not my zhuzh. So I definitely like the SH Figure Arts. I have been collecting the first wave of SH Figure Arts. So they're really expensive and really hard to find because they re-released these figures in animation color editions. But it's in the original wave you get Black Lady, Tuxedo Mask, Sailor V, the Inner Senshi, the Outer Senshi, and the super versions, Super Sailor Moon, the Eternal Sailor Moon, and the Super Inner Senshi, including the Outers. But the Outers don't have a super form, so it's just the Outers and Chibi Moon. So I pretty much have all of them. I just need the Super Inner Senshi and Tuxedo Mask. So I think that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite piece to collect at this point in time because they're just, cool to find. I have to say my favorite piece of merchandise is probably my Cosmic Heart compact replicas. I have both versions. I have I think it's the 2012 version and the 2023 Brilliant Edition. I also have both Spiral Heart Moon rods. So I think those are my favorite because S is my favorite season, and those are my favorite weapons and compacts from that show. But Z, I know that we've been trying to get you official with your Star Bracelet and your Star Cambo, but do you have a piece of Sailor Moon merch that's on your wish list that you want to get?
Oh goodness, it's hard. There's a few, and naturally a good chunk of them are from PGSM because I love PGSM. I can't help it. That's my show. So I would really love the Princess Sailor Moon harp. I know it's really tiny in person because there's a mutual of mine. Shouts out to Ari. She has the Princess Sailor Moon harp, if I recall correctly, and it's very, very tiny. Like, it's definitely for kiddos. But I really want that. And I also really want the cell phones because I know that they made the cell phones that they use in the show.
Oh yeah,
I own one of those, and I have so many scenes planned where it'd be really cool to do like me as a magical girl part 5, and I have the cell phone and I put the sound in. The ideas are ideating, but I really want those two things at least.
Okay. So yes, the Princess Sailor Moon sword / harp is really small. I wish it was. I wish I could get a replica of that.
Yes.
I also want I would want a bigger version of that. So if there are 3D printers out there that want to take on a challenge, I am more than welcome to lend my sword for you to scan and make into a bigger version because I want that.
It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. And then also blankets. I love my second favorite Mooney item is just all the blankets that I own. I'm such a blanket person. I have so many Sailor Moon blankets. It's not even funny.
I actually bought one from you.
Blankets. I love blankets. Yeah. I have
in my game right now.
Oh yay! That makes me happy. I have so many Mooney blankets, and I remember where I got that one. I got that one at MomoCon, and I got it for cheap because I was cosplaying Sailor Moon that day, and they were really trying to get rid of their inventory. And she was like, "I'll give it to you for a discount." Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's actually my favorite because I think it's really interesting. I try to collect as much like S and Super's merchandise because it has art by Ikuko Ito, who's my favorite animator, and Marco Albiero, who is an Italian artist, does a lot of the Sailor Moon art. So it's like that blanket features his art, but it's inspired by Ikuko Ito's style. So it's very hard, to find a lot of stuff like that. So I try to get that as much as I can. I'm not a big fan of the season 1, season 2 merch because of the art. So I try to do that. I think it's really interesting, like how people collect things. Like I know Brooke from Sailor Moon Network actually like makes it a point to collect 20th anniversary Sailor Moon World stuff.
Oh.
So I thought that was very interesting, like how people have their niche. Like Jerome, he collects, 90s petite soldiers and the dolls and stuff like that. And Brooke does the 20th World Sailor Moon World stuff like that. And Taylor Tortilla just has extensive collection. I just want to go take a nap in her room and just be surrounded by everything.
It's all the Mooney merch. Oh.
Right. So, this next question I actually stole from Laura, who was part of the Magical Melody cast. I thought it was very interesting that when we asked her what character we think represents us, she asked Bryce and Miracle and Brittany what character they thought was most like her. So I'm gonna ask that question for us. Mm-hmm. What character do you think represents your co-host? I'll go first.
Okay, cool.
So I think I think Z is kind of like a mix of like Jupiter and Mercury and Sailor Moon. Like, I think she's a good mix between those 3 characters. I think she embodies like some of the ideals and values of that trio of characters, stuff like that. It's like she's soft-spoken and sensitive like Mercury, but she loves and cares for her friends like Usagi, and she's strong and feminine like Jupiter.
Aw,
So
thank
that's probably
you.
the best. So I think that probably represents Z, like off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure that answer will get more nuanced as we continue.
Okay, well, G, I also have like a mix of senshi, but it's two in particular. One of them, ironically, is Sailor Mercury, just because G is so smart, like so freaking smart, but is also just really, really wise and just has this very calming presence to him, like I feel Sailor Mercury does. And then, I know you said this character describes you, so this is probably like a nudge on the arm, but also Sailor Pluto, just with the aspect of how patient you are and just being like that quote unquote older figure looking over and just
Obasa.
it's just I'm sorry, that sent me. And just I lost my train of thought. But yeah,
She has to be my favorite version of Pluto too, because she was funny.
That's literally, I was tying that in. G's also really freaking funny. And moments like that Mikako Ishii did in Le Mouvement Finale, which I think is like a genuine little homage to the band debut at that point in time. That's so G. They'll have moments like that. Like he's just, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be giggling about that for a hot little bit. But I say Sailor Mercury, and I also say Sailor Pluto, specifically those two characters, with a hint of Sailor Mars.
Oh wow, which one?
Oh dang, I get to pick versions. I will say,
because in the '90s anime, she's portrayed differently than she is in PGSM and the manga and Crystal.
You were right.
So that was the one thing that was the one thing Naoko was saying about like Mars in the '90s anime, that she's more feisty than she originally intended her to be.
I would definitely say PGSM Mars alongside PGSM Mars alongside the manga. Those two.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. Because I was literally thinking like, oh, she thinks I'm like '90s.
Oh no, it was PGSM
anime. Because I was kind of spicy with Lumi in our group chats.
I'm screaming.
So yeah, there are times when I don't play. I get a little fiery, a little feisty. If you text me there and stuff like that, and it wasn't anything too bad, but it was just
it was all in fun, all in playing fun.
So, I think it's really cool because I think that our answers are based off of how we've answered previously. So I know that Jupiter tends to be your go-to answer for what senshi you are most like, and Sailor Pluto is most likely mine. Age is definitely a factor when it comes to Pluto. Demeanor wise, and her solitary duty as the guardian of the door of time and space. So as much as she is okay with being on her own, much like the other outer, since she wants to be a part of something greater than herself, and she ultimately gets that wish granted when she's reborn into the new era. So yes, I'm very much an introvert. I could definitely see where Sailor Mercury plays that, especially PGSM Mercury, who I definitely resonate with a lot, like that social anxiety, not necessarily knowing like how to make friends or be a good friend sometimes, but like
Finding that
getting
balance.
to a space where you're I'm okay with being myself, and I'm okay, being on my own. I don't necessarily have to do everything my extroverted friends are doing to be considered a good friend or good person. So I think that was a very good lesson to learn from PGSM Mercury. So, and what do you think, Z? Do you think Jupiter still aligns with? Yeah.
I think Jupiter does, especially like specifically PGS and Jupiter, just with dealing with the fact of not really knowing your purpose till your purpose becomes realized. Because I know that's like a little mini arc that they do with her. Like, why are people leaving my life, exiting my life, da 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 da? I don't understand, but things just kind of drawing you to this greater purpose. And then when you realize that greater purpose, it's like, it was all for this people here. And now there's a water fountain behind us because these people are with me. Friends, friendship. That's an episode reference, by the way, for those that don't know. It's the episode that Jupiter gets introduced to. Introduced in. But she does have like a mini little character arc where she's like really discovering herself and finding herself and like tapping into herself, and that's something that I really relate to. And I even appreciate you saying Mercury and Moon, because I definitely am a very caring person. Or I like to think that I am. I do love my friends very much. I hype my friends up quite literally every day, dare I say, because everyone's so cool and so talented and so creative and so skilled, and you have to know that. You do.
Yes. You're also very patient.
I try to be patient. I do my very best. I try so hard.
This next question, and there's no right or wrong answer to this question. I think it's interesting to see how people refer to the Sailor Senshi like overall, and I'm actually going to add that in here. Okay, so Z, Sailor Scout, Sailor Guardian, Sailor Soldier, or Sailor Senshi? Which is your preferred terminology?
Ooh. I'm happy that you added Senshi, because I'm saying Senshi. I love Senshi. In fact, I'll like rank them a little bit in no particular order.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm more likely to use Senshi if I'm talking with people. Followed by Guardian. Followed by Guardian, then Soldier, and then Scout is last for me. I don't think I've ever used Scout specifically. If I have, then it's been in reference to like the different dubs that use that version. But I 100%, I think I always say Sailor Senshi. Probably because of the Bandai musicals, but that's okay.
Yeah. So I tend to use Senshi just because it tends to be the most used term across the fandom. But I prefer Sailor Soldier. That's how I was introduced to the terminology later on, because initially it was Scout, and I never liked Scout. It was a Sailor Scout. But Sailor Scout does hold a particular nostalgia for a lot of the Geek fans growing up and stuff like that. So they still call them Scouts. They still call them by their geeked up names too. So as far as ranking, it's definitely Soldier, Senshi, Guardian, and then Scout. Guardian was, and PGSM was the first show iteration of Sailor Moon to carry the Guardian title. So before that, it was Pretty Soldier, Sailor Moon, and then it officially changed to Pretty Guardian.
Yes.
Going back into favorites, and I think I know the answer, and I feel like I'm cheating because I listened to the podcast, so of course I know the answers. But I'm wondering if it's still the same. Do you have a favorite arc/season?
I do. It's very obviously the Saban Moon arc that happened.
The pilot with the moon surfboard.
Literally. Obviously, it's not what I'm kidding. It's the Dark Kingdom. Dark Kingdom and the Stars arc go hand in hand, but Dark Kingdom for sure. I don't know. It's interesting. I like the beginning and I like the end. That's very interesting. Yeah, I like the beginning and I like the end, but I really like the beginning. I like seeing how it all started, how it all unfolds. And granted, when it came to watching PGSM first, I got a whole completely different perspective of how the Dark Kingdom arc is.
Right.
So I'm thinking it's like that with other versions. When I find out it's not, I'm like, oh, so none of this actually happens in the other stories. That's neat. So I gotta say Dark Kingdom.
Right. So would you say that out of all the iterations of the Dark Kingdom arc, the PGSM is your favorite?
100%. Next to, I'll give a honorary mention to Gaiden Dark Kingdom Fukatsu Hen, which is the very first ever Sailor Moon musical for Bandai.
Right.
I love it because it's like a Dark Kingdom revival sort of thing. So like they revive things or whatever. But I like that take. It's very silly, very fun, very serious. A lot of references to things. But yeah, definitely PGSM honorary mention to Gaiden Dark Kingdom.
Yeah, and I love Yami Koso from Gaiden. It's such a good barrel song.
Yes.
So my favorite arc season has not changed. It is still the Infinity arc or the S season from the anime.
Yes.
I'll have to say my favorite version is probably Crystal / manga. I do tend to use that scene a lot too from Crystal for my edits. So fun little side note, I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 online. I just finished one of the arcs, but one of the arcs I was playing expansions was called Shadowbringers, and there was the theme song from Shadowbringers I used in my most recent Crystal edit, which featured the Saturn appearance from Infinity. And yeah, that's definitely like I feel like the Crystal manga version is probably my favorite iteration of it. The 90s, the end of the 90s version of it is definitely my favorite. I tend to use that scene a lot too. But I just love the introduction of Uranus and Neptune, the return of Pluto, the Death Busters. It was just definitely a darker take and a turn for the series in general to more darker themes. So it was really cool to see all that. And Z, you added this question.
I did.
About favorite opening and ending. And I need to know why or how you came up with this question.
Ironically, I too was listening to the podcast, the first episode, and one of the questions I believe tied into music, and oftentimes openings and endings involve music to visuals depending. So I was curious. It ties in two things, visuals and music. And I know that you're a really big visuals person with arts and knowing like different artists and stuff. And we're both really big into music because I love Sailor Moon music. Really love Sailor Moon music. So I'm curious to see. So that was my reasoning. Two things that
gosh.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So favorite opening is definitely Sailor Moon S. I think that, this is tough. Sailor Moon R and Sailor Moon S, because they're animated by my favorite animator, Ikuko Ito. So that's one of the reasons why I like those. It was definitely a turn, like character design and animation wise. And I like that. And so definitely S version first and then R second, because I like the Moon Lips version of Moonlight Densetsu, which is the cast from the Sarah Miyu musical. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. It's definitely more upbeat and more modern compared to the original Moonlight Densetsu sung by Dolly. As far as endings go, that's a tough one. I also, as far as openings go, so it's like, if I had like a top three, it's definitely S, R, and the Moon Pride openings for Crystal are definitely my favorite. Moon Pride kind of gives me like the Sailor Moon deep theme vibes because it has like that nice little rock bridge intro that I love. But as far as endings go, honestly, there's maybe two. I'm terrible at this because when the ending comes on, that's when I turn the show off. So
that's hard questions. Such hard.
Yes, so it's so tough because there wasn't really an ending that I liked. But if I had to choose, it'd probably be Princess Moon. I like that ending from the 90s anime. I wasn't too fond of too many endings from the 90s anime. I like Tuxedo Mirage because you like Tuxedo Mirage, so that's the only reason I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And I like gosh, I can never say the name of the song. But it's the Tuxedo Mask ending for Crystal. season.
Ask me how I know that one.
Yes, and the Uranus and Neptune ending from Crystal. So Crystal has actually had some pretty good endings. Oh, I have to give an honorable mention to the Cosmos openings.
Ooh.
Because those were really good.
I have not seen them fully in its entirety yet. I know that I want to say they're homages.
Yes.
I think I've seen the opening.
Yes.
I do like them. I do like that. I have not seen the ending. I do like it. Very nice.
Your turn.
Oh, it's my it's my turn. Okay, bet. Okay, so you listed 3. I don't know if I can list 3.
I'm not expecting you to, but as I was thinking about it, I'm like, no,
it's a good way to categorize or compartmentalize. Definitely, I gotta put Kiwari Sailor Dream up there. If that's not my favorite, it's not my favorite. Just because, like, when you hear that song, I don't know, when you hear that song and then you hear the opening and you got the visuals, like, I don't know about you, but it gets me hyped. I love seeing like the girls holding like their senshi, so it's like their inner selves in a way becoming their outer selves when like it zooms in and it shows them doing their little poses, so you get to see them doing their everyday norm thing. And then just the frame by frame bits, like the slower frame by frame bits that happen when they're like walking or when Usagi sees Mamoru, like it's beautiful to me, and I love them singing the song. Like it's so 2000s. I love every bit of it. Who doesn't feel like a Moonlight real girl when they hear that song? I know I do. I cry every time I hear that song. So Kirari Sailor Dream's definitely up there for openings. There wasn't really any ending song per se for PGSM. I guess you could count Friend low-key, but it was really just an opening more than anything.
Right.
I also love the Numo ni Koishite opening from season 3 of Sailor Moon Crystal, but specifically the version that is sung by Mamoru Clever Z. I love how it's sung, and I love how it kind of adds to the visuals that are provided in that opening. And then, Makenai.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because I wanted to say like the Sailor Star song opening.
Yeah, Sailor Star song, that's another opening. Anytime I see it and I hear it, I just start tearing up, because like, dang, that makes me want to fight to save my friends. Wow. It's just, I don't know. And it's also just the fact that that's like the ending, but not really the ending, because they rebooted the whole franchise. But like, I don't know. It's a hard, strong opener, but yet it provides like this weird sense of closure on top of it. So those are my openings: Kirari Sailor Dream, New Moon, Nikoshite, and then Sailor Star Song. Ending wise, I love Gecko or Moonbow, which is the season 1 thing of Sailor Moon Crystal. That song is beautiful. The visuals, the visions. Sound like Usagi. The visuals are just as beautiful. I love that they're kind of walking in a way on infinity, to infinity and beyond. But they're walking on infinity, it's Endymion and Serenity. I love that you get to see. I don't know, it's something that's so simple, but it does so much, and I love that very much, both with the song and then with the visuals that it provide. So I love that ending. I also love Tuxedo Mirage. I love that ending so freaking much. I love that they made a music box for it. That's another thing on my wish list, that music box. I need it so bad in my life. But I don't know, it's pretty. It's very pretty. The song's pretty in and of itself, because gosh, what is the composer's name? I know her first name's Akiko. I cannot remember her last name, but like, she composed that song, and anything that she composes is just automatically a certified classic in my eyeballs, because it's that good. So I love that ending, and I also love Eien Dake Futuri wo Kakeru. I really love. I was there. I was there when season 3 was airing, and when that ending dropped, the way I was like, I know y'all can't see my expression, but just imagine me being gasped, just like, what? It's just so dramatic. It's so him. I literally waited like a whole month to get the full version of that song. That's how much I love that ending and how much I love that song. But those are my 3 endings. Can y'all tell I love Sailor Moon music? Like that's really my driving force sometimes when it comes to why I like certain things. But those are my endings and my openings. Respect.
I like that you chose the Momoclo version of New Moon. Because I like the and it's probably just nostalgia for me, but I love the Mitsuko Hori version of New Moon.
See, I figured you probably did.
Because she's the voice of Galexia, so.
I think there's something really symbolic about her singing that opening too. That's interesting.
Yes. So speaking of Sailor Moon Crystal, it is officially over.
Oh!
So, given we have 3 seasons of Sailor Moon Crystal, 2-part movies for Sailor Moon Eternal and Sailor Moon Cosmos, how do you feel about the overall revival? Like, what are your feels?
I will say, from the perspective of somebody that got into the revival first, before getting into the original source material and animation, I thought it was great, personally. I thought it was cool. I think it definitely found its footing after the 3rd season, because I know the art style was all over the place, up, down, left, and right.
Right.
Cha-cha slide now. But as the time went on, I think they got more solidified and more grounded in what they were doing and why they were doing it. And I think the dialogue got a lot better. The music is always a 10 out of 10. It's always a 10 out of 10. Forever 10 out of 10. And the visuals are just so pretty. Like, I will never forget when Eternal drops. Like, they dropped part 1 and 2 on Netflix, and watching that, and like my screen being illuminated by Moon Girl magic, and I'm crying my eyeballs out just hearing the music and seeing the visuals, and it's like, oh my gosh, and getting chills up and down my body. Like, oh my goodness, I had never felt so engaged with a form of media before like that. So I personally think that the revival was pretty good and pretty cool. I know there were definitely some trips in the road. Couple trips.
Divots, potholes.
Yeah. But you get back up and you put the band-aids on and you clean off your scrapes and you keep moving. And
Okay.
I can appreciate that they kept moving in spite of, because honestly they could have pulled a Nami
Who are you
locator.
telling?
They could have pulled a Sailor Stars in a way. Like, not
Yes.
getting full adaptations and stuff. Like, they could have really stopped at season 3 if they wanted to. But like, well, if people don't like this, or if we ain't rocking with this, we can quit. So I'm happy that they continued. You know,
Yes,
like they
I agree.
went all the way out.
Yeah. Overall, I have the same feels. I think there were some missed opportunities. Like, we could have started off with a Sailor V prequel.
Yes.
We could have seen more of the manga side stories, like Chibiu's Picture Diary or the exam battles, which I was really looking forward to. Because the 90s anime gave us Ami's First Love, which is based off of Sailor Mercury's exam battle from the manga. We never got to see Jupiter's or Mars and Venus's, so I was hoping that they would pick that back up.
That would have been amazing.
And do that for Crystal, because that would have been really cool to see. Definitely, character design was all over the place. And, to be clear, the very first episode and the character design for Sailor Moon Crystal was very strong and had a lot of potential. I think that we mentioned earlier that probably because of the format and the release schedule is one of the reasons why quality dipped. Even with the Blu-ray, there's still some corrections that need to be made. I think that season 1 character design was probably the strongest and most original compared to the other seasons, because it was manga inspired. But it had like some touches of anime, so I think if they had kind of like stuck with the style and did like more homage like season 3 did, it'd probably be better. I'm not a fan of season 3 anime. It's definitely very inspired by Precure. Not that I have any issue with Precure. I love Precure. But you can definitely see the Precure-ness, echoing throughout the series. And it also seemed, like they kind of got away from, the eye design So I'm glad that when they brought Kazuko Tadano, who was a character designer for season 1 and season 2 of the 90s anime, back for Eternal and Cosmos, because they brought back specific things like eye design, and specific eye, shapes and stuff like that and colors for the various senshi and stuff like that. As far as, Eternal and Cosmos, I'm still on cloud, and I'm still remember how Cosmos was announced, because honestly I didn't think there was going to be, because of the mixed fan reaction from Eternal. I really did not think Cosmos was going to be a thing. So I'm glad I was able to, it's clear as day to me, because I was in Chicago for work, and 2 things happened while I was in Chicago. One, I got Employee of the Year for my job.
Woo!
And 2, they announced Sailor Moon Cosmos. Y'all, I never hopped so fast into my Discord. I'm tagging Z, I'm tagging everybody, screaming and hollering in Discord. In the middle, it's super late. It was late because I was like, Z's not gonna see this till the morning, because I was like, oh my god, it's Sailor Moon Cosmos. I was freaking out. I was sharing it on TikTok and stuff like that. It was crazy. It was just
the place.
Honestly, I think that's the biggest takeaway from the Crystal era for me, is being able to live a Sailor Moon experience that's new for everyone. Even though we knew what was happening, it was a new experience for all of us. And so I'm glad that we were able to share it with each other. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from the Crystal era for me. Was it my favorite? No. A once over watch was good enough for me. I watched Cosmos. I haven't watched it since.
I have not watched Cosmos yet.
Well, buckle your seatbelt, Z, because that's going to be one of our episodes. We're going to have to watch Cosmos and give the feels.
Oh Lord, I've heard so much about it. I just don't think I'm ready yet. I say as it's been out for months and months, and we've gotten the release, but I don't know. I'm just I know I'm gonna boohoo cry. I know I'm gonna boohoo cry like a child, because it's gonna be like Friend all over again, seeing Friend at the end of the
Yes, I have been very strategic about how much content I'm releasing from Cosmos. Not that it matters, because people are literally releasing whole clips from the movie and multiple parts on TikTok. It's ridiculous.
The whole movie.
Right, they're not even a Sailor Moon TikTok creator, but they made their TikTok specifically to upload Cosmos, and so
Yep.
It's so it's I don't know how much people have seen, but it's I try to stick to footage that was seen in the trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been an experience. It's sad to see it over. I don't know what the future holds, and that actually ties into your next question, because you asked if we think there will be another anime reboot of Sailor Moon. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I don't think there will be another reboot. If there is, then it probably will be an anniversary sort of thing, I feel. Just to be this one will actually be way more faithful to the manga. I don't know. But I personally just don't envision there being another reboot. As much as my heart would want it, depending on... It depends. If I see Cosmos and I like how Cosmos ended up, I don't think they'll do another reboot. Depending on Cosmos. We'll see. So to be continued on that aspect. But I just don't personally envision there being a reboot unless they were going to go back and really stick to the pages of the manga. Because it goes, I don't know. Yeah. I don't see there being another reboot unless they were to do that, to be more verbatim from the manga, showing how battles happened and who actually defeated the villains and whatnot, and just, like you said, going through some extra little things that the 90s anime did that Crystal necessarily didn't touch on. just
Right.
really fully doing the whole catalog.
Right, I agree. I would like to see, like, I don't think a reboot's going to happen. I just, one, it's too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And given, like, the ups and downs that this revival has had, I just don't know if Sailor Moon has the popularity to continue down that road.
Mm-hmm.
I would like them to take the current team that did Cosmos and go back and reanimate.
That would be really cool.
So I would like that. And the thing is like reanimation is a thing. Like Hunter x Hunter is getting a reanimation.
Yeah.
I think Bleach is getting a reanimation too. So it's like it's not too far fetched. I would much rather prefer this team for Cosmos to go back and kind of like touch up the first 3 seasons to kind of match the style of Eternal and Cosmos. If you know if money was not an object and what have you, I would like to see a more comprehensive anime reboot, which kind of combines the elements of the 90s anime and the manga, and create a more comprehensive story. We get to see, Sailor V. We get to see the exam battles and, stuff like that. And we get this, and I would honestly like to see something that has not been done. Like, I know people want to see how Chibi Moon becomes like Sailor Moon and she gets a Sailor Quartet. Like, what are their battles like? I personally would love to see a Sailor Cosmos story.
That would be
don't know
cool.
how you. I really liked how they did Cosmos in the movement finale.
Yes.
So I like to see something like that, so that's how I feel about it. I just don't think, a reboot. There is a fan artist, a Sailor Moon fan artist. They're called Stella Luna, but they were known as like SCPG 1898, I believe, or something like that, on DeviantArt, and they were known for kind of like reanimating, Sailor Moon and redesigning Sailor Moon, and they were partnering with Sailor Crisis, who's another prominent Sailor Moon fan artist, and they were collaborating to release like reanimated movies of the show. So it was like I think the first show, which was the first movie, which was based off the first season, and the first arc of the manga was called Sailor Moon Prism. So I'm hoping one day they will, sit down, collaborate, and come up with something like that. I have to say that the fans and the creators, the content creators of Sailor Moon, probably have like the strongest passion and the tools to deliver something that fans actually want for Sailor Moon. We know that Viz is releasing the Blu-rays of Sailor Moon series, which we all, love. But when I see Project Nostalgia by Eric McLeod, it delivers a remaster that we deserve. Color enhancement, AI enhancements and stuff like that. Like, it's compared to the Viz, and I've showed you some comparisons on Discord. Where it's like there's like, here's the Blu-ray, this is Project Nostalgia. Like, it's like, had you had actually taken the time and money to properly invest and deliver this type of product, like Sailor Tortilla talks about all the time, like, SH Figure Arts, you could have had my money 2-3 times over by just changing, the brooch and the weapon for a Sailor Moon. Like, she has 3 normal versions of herself. Like, you could have literally taken, like, you could have made a Propica for Pluto, or the inner Senshi and stuff like that. You know how much money you could have got out of us?
So much money.
So it's like stuff like that I think about. So I as sad as it is to see the Crystal Era come to an end, I'm definitely interested to see what the community is going to come out with in kind of like to fill the gap, you know. And there's already some people out there making moves and stuff like that. We have Project Sailor Scout, which is working on a remaster of the Deke dub and stuff like that. So that's really cool to see. We have Project Nostalgia. You know, they're doing kind of like there's a Sailor Moon Hearts and Ice dub, Deke dub, not Deke dub, Pioneer dub that is being like animated by various, like reanimated by various animators in the community. So I'm definitely interested to see how that comes out. I love seeing all the different clips from that. So as sad as, you know, like I said, it's sad to see like the official Sailor Moon Crystal era end. I'm definitely interested to see what fan content is coming out. Sailor Moon Sacrifice is coming out with a manga, so I'm really excited for that.
Yes.
So lots of fun stuff.
A lot of fun stuff.
And I guess I kind of like answered that next question. What would I like to see in a new anime revival? Totally got into the weeds with that one. So I'm gonna let Z answer what she would like to see in a new anime revival of Sailor Moon.
I mean, you answered it for me. Just things that weren't necessarily covered within Crystal, things that might have been lightly touched on within the 90s anime. Yeah, that's it. Like, you literally answered it for me. That would be stuff that I'd like to see. Maybe just the things in general that might have been glossed on the surface, but really nothing was done after that. Like, go deeper for a minute. I want to see more. Give me more.
Yeah.
More movie.
Yeah. So a new Nogi 46 musical is coming out. I don't know if it's going to be the Dark Kingdom arc again, or if it's going to be a new arc.
So from what I've heard through the grapevine and what I've seen, it sounds like it's going to be the Dark Kingdom arc, and it's just going to be with a new generation, so like a new cast. So arguably the same thing as what happened in 2018, 19.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that.
I have many thoughts. I have so many thoughts. I'm excited, but like hearing that it's might possibly be the exact same thing, it's like, oh well, darn. But I have hope that maybe they'll do new costumes, and maybe they'll have new fukus. Maybe there'll be.
I hope so.
Maybe new songs. Maybe new songs. And maybe this will be like the foundation for them to do like Nogimu, but do different arcs, like what they did with the original NLK run. So maybe we could get like arc 2, season 2, season 3, like all of that just through the perspective of the Nogimu schools, because I personally love like the visual storytelling that they do with Nogimu. Like it's very, if you've never seen the Nogimu schools, it's very visual.
Yes.
Very visual. A lot of lights,
we'll
a lot of projections, a lot of stage movement, production. Like it your eyes will be captivated 24/7.
Right.
So those are my hopes. I don't know if any of those will happen, but I think it'd be really cool if this is just a foundation for more Nogi musicals with the arts, because it'd be really interesting to see that type of storytelling through that medium, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch, but it's definitely not one of my favorites musicals.
That's okay.
I'm not a fan of the costumes.
It took me a good long while to warm up to how those fukus look. It's definitely a take.
Yes.
They're pretty. They're very shimmery.
Very shimmery. It's visually great. But there's also some glaring things that are kind of like hard for me not to like overlook. Like I can't get used to Puppet Luna. As cool as it was to see Luna in the show, it's just really weird. It takes away the suspense of disbelief, and I can't help it. Like there's a person holding a cat. Like
there's a person holding the cat.
But I love the Shinno. I hope they come back.
Oh, same.
Yes.
The generals carried in that musical so hard. I love all of their songs.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I love the generals in that musical. They are amazing. So amazing.
And I hope Miyako comes back as Tuxedo.
That would be wonderful.
It would be
I-
wonderful. I loved
I
her
love
as
that
Pluto.
too.
She was a great tuxedo too.
Yes, she did both roles very well, very very well.
Yes. Yes. So, speaking of musicals, I know the Noki 46 musical is coming out. It's probably not something we were expecting. Hopefully, we'll see like what comes out of it. If you could make a Sailor Moon musical, what would it be about? Or what would you incorporate into it to make it a visual masterpiece?
Oh my goodness. So shouts out to the Sea of Serenity Discord, because that's actually low-key where I got this question from. Because,
Okay.
you know, with Chronicle coming out, or Chronicle having come out,
Right.
you know, there is the possibility that there might not be any more musicals after this. Like, that might be the last thing. And it's like, well, dang. If you wanted to make a musical, what would you want it to be about? So for me, so as I've said before, I love the beginning. And I want to see the very beginning. I think it'd be really cool to have a movie that focuses on the beginning. So specifically the Moon Kingdom, you know, Serenity being born, Nehelenia happening, and then just kind of getting to see the Senshi do their role, seeing the generals have their part and have their role, seeing how Elysium works, and see so many beautiful ballads. And then the musical ends where the story starts. I can see it now. There's literally
that's really good.
there's literally a scene. So the battle just happens. There's like a form of Sailor War Supreme or Sailor Battle from La Reconquista that happens song-wise.
Yeah.
People getting ended left and right. And then there's a spotlight on Queen Serenity. She her last dying breath. And she holds up her moonstick and she just wishes for her daughter and her friends to have a wonderful life, to not be doomed to this tragedy. Everything goes black. There's a spotlight in the center, and it's a silhouette of Usagi. So you can't see who she is, but you can tell who she is by the shape. And all you hear is the voiceover of, "Hi, I'm Usagi Tsukino, a 14-year-old," and then it fades out, and then everything goes black. So it literally ends where it starts.
Take my money now.
I can see
That
it.
would be really good. That'd be really
think
good.
that
And
would
I
be
think it's a
so
great jumping off point. So I think that, so I'm going to take that. I'm going to tell you.
Excellent.
So, because honestly, that's how I would want a new musical series to start. Because I think that, like you said, the beginning, like the Silver Millennium has, and it'd be a great title for us. Sailor, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, the musical, Silver Millennium. And then it like basically, you know, talks about, and my thing is like there's enough content, like especially with the manga, to kind of like expand on the beginning. So it's like you can talk about Guardian Cosmos, you can talk about Queen Serenity seeing the Galaxy Cauldron and chaos and stuff like that, and being able to bring about, you know, you have all your goodies. You have your inner Senshi, you have your outer Senshi, you have Sailor Saturn destroying the end and stuff like that. So you get to see everybody, everybody and everything. And I love the way that you ended it, where it's like, you know, basically, you know, like Serenity sends everybody to the future to live normal lives and stuff like that. And it opens, basically the ending opens with Usagi, you know, appearing.
Yes.
And I think that the next musical would basically pick up from there.
Literally, it could be a whole little fun little Nelke run. You could literally start it.
And that's what I really want, is basically another Nelke run that basically, you know, takes, you know, all the little bits and pieces and tidbits of Sailor Moon story and make it its own, but still be true to the original. So it's like, even though, because it's like, if you look at Petite Étrangère and the Un Nouveau Voyage, like they were true to the story but made it their own. Like it was very cool to see Sapphire or Saphia to be the big bad next to Chaos and Black Lady. I mean, not Chaos, the Death Phantom and Wise Man and Black Lady, and that musical versus Demand, who was, you know, that. It was really cool to see how Un Nouveau Voyage handled the Infinity arc, because it was very comprehensive. You know, so it's like I think that there's so much opportunity for them to continue that and still be true to Sarah Miyu and still be true to Sailor Moon.
It'd be great. That would be great. If there are possibly any Mew Nail Cave producers out there and you hear this idea, call us up. Call me up. I will draw out visuals easily. I have so many song ideas. I can even give you costuming ideas.
Right.
Just say the word. I think it'd be so cool. Or even like a Sailor V musical. I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
That would be cool to see a Sailor V musical. That'd be interesting to see as well. And I think it's a good, like, one-shot offshoot musical that they can do, you know, rather than just doing the same arc over and over again. Because I think the Dark Kingdom arc is used, like, I think it's used for Shining Moon, and it was used for something else.
Yep, that's the go-to.
Yeah. Now that Double Moonlight Justice is back, what Sailor Moon hot takes or topics do you want to discuss on Moonlight Justice? And I picked this up from our first episode because the stuff that we said we want to talk about, we didn't talk about it.
I remember listening to that yesterday. I was like, I'm screaming. Do you want to answer or you want me to answer first?
I can answer first.
Okay.
So I still think we should touch on the subjects that we talked about in the first episode that we didn't really get an opportunity to sit down and discuss. And I want to talk about, you know, the misconception of Mamoru's age in the 90s anime. Because I think that, you know, and unfortunately for Sailor Moon, because of the dubs and the lack of information that were available to the US, you know, and the advent of the internet and streaming, there's still a misunderstanding of Mamoru, his age, his characterization, even his breakup with Usagi, which tends to get blown way out of proportion. So I just like to provide some clarity for, you know, that. I can't say that we're going to change people's minds or change how they feel about Mamoru, but, you know, I just definitely would like to provide some clarity in a tuxedo unmasked type fashion.
Yes.
I know that we touched on Seiya Usa and Mamo Usa with our fan fiction segment from the first season. I think that you know, they deserve like more of a, you know, a episode dedicated to that particular topic. Even if it's just in general, like where it's like a kind of like a shipper type episode where we talk about the various relationships throughout.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah, you know, throughout Sailor Moon in general, and the Electra Complex thing with Black Lady and Chibiusa and Tuxedo Mask / Mamoru. I think that also tends to get blown out of proportion. Like I said before, people tend to like to generalize and simplify things that are not meant to be simplified. They're complex for a reason. And when you simplify them or try to box them into something that was not necessarily intended for that, it kind of like changes the perspective on what the show is actually about.
Yes.
Just to name a few.
Just name a few. So I will say, I was going to say Mamoru, just the mischaracterization of Mamoru in general, because there's just so many facets to his character that I feel like kind of get dissolved, and he's just kind of brought up as, like, you know the memes being like quote unquote useless,
right?
Sort of thing. And there's a lot more to his character. I personally feel. So definitely just talking about Mamoru and like his contributions to the narrative. Princess Sailor Moon, just talking about her character as well.
Yes.
And the purpose that you could say that she served, and like why she appeared, and just really going in on her actions and why she did the things that she did, and really analyzing that. With so many
yes.
So really fun.
Kayani, or Caesar Pranadiva, has been itching to talk about Princess Sailor Moon. And, you know, her motivations, her characterization, stuff like that. So hopefully, you know, she can find some free time in her very busy schedule as an opera singer to join us for that conversation because I feel like, you know, and I think that kind of, the Princess Sailor Moon kind of falls into that same category as Sailor Cosmos, where it's like this mysterious character comes into play. We don't know what their motivations are. We're not 100% sure about their characterizations. Sailor Cosmos, whose identity is very ambiguous and very mysterious, and is the subject of so much discourse in the fandom because people insist that she's Usagi, and there are some people that insist that she is a descendant of Usagi, and so it's like I would definitely like to include that Sailor Cosmos into it. And just to kind of like touch on it, I feel like it's too easy to just say that Sailor Cosmos is Sailor Moon or Usagi. That's just my opinion on it. So I'd love to do a deep dive into that. Yes, so we definitely. So that means you have to watch Cosmos, though.
I'll watch Cosmos soon. I'll watch it soon. Who knows? Maybe I say maybe I'll watch it tonight. But if you hear me crying in the distance, that means I've probably watched it, or I'm watching the GSM. But definitely those two things, and then just general conversation about the musicals, the different types of musicals.
Yes.
Different story arcs that happen. I'm a nerdy cosplayer, so I'd say the costumes of the musicals as well as PGSM. I think it'd be really cool to talk about the choices that were made when it came to styling everything, why it was done that way, it being closer to source material stuff, so like how a lot of the PGSM costumes are very reminiscent or exact to a lot of the designs that Noako did in the manga. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think fashion and costuming will be a great episode because fashion is definitely a big inspiration for the original manga. Terry Mugler was a prominent theme throughout Sailor Moon, and she pulled a lot of inspiration from her surroundings and stuff like that. So I think it'd be really cool to dive into the fashion inspirations as well as some of the design choices for Bandai, Melke, PGSM, and stuff like that, as far as costuming goes.
I think that'd be really fun. And even like why they went the direction they did, thinking about the times. Like with PGSM, how, it does take place in the 2000s in a way, so them having cell phones, it would make sense. And how you could pair that with Power Rangers Mystic Force or Magic Ranger, because they also had the equivalent.
Right.
Just Power Ranger or Super Sentai / Sailor Moon connections, I think would be a really cool thing to talk about. Like, how those two kind of are parallel.
Yeah, to harken back to a reboot / revival. I would love to see live action.
Yes, please. Let me be on the production team. I don't even have to do anything. Let me sit in the room where it happens. Please, Lord, let me sit in the room where it happens. I would love to see another live action, especially with like today's standard of like CGI and whatever. I think it's pretty decent. Like I think some of it still holds up, especially with the transformation sequences. But imagine that now. Oh, somebody would be cooking.
Okay, and what guests are you looking forward to inviting or re-inviting back to Moonlight Justice?
Oh my goodness, I have so many. Okay, so literally everybody that was already on here, especially the peeps behind Sea of Serenity. I love them so much, and I'm really sad that was the one episode I missed out on because I was out of town. So I would love to have them back on and chat about stuff. I also would really love to have some cosplayers on here. So like Empress Jasmine with Sarah Cosplay, the Geeky Seamstress, Vicky Bane, Ohaya Bear, just a lot of Michi, just a lot of Mooney cosplayers, people that love Sailor Moon and often are very involved in the Mooney community through their cosplays and through their wig styling, and just getting their perspective, especially when it comes to like Sailor Moon cosplay. New cosplays, just a lot of people, just their perspective on cosplaying from Sailor Moon, especially with how accessible how accessible it is to like make a fuku compared to like 2003, when there wasn't things
Right.
like art of wigs, for example, where you could like get wig shapes that you wanted. Just being more adaptable is not the word. That's the word that's coming. Being adaptable to how you make things. I think that'd be really cool. So just cosplayers and everybody that was here before, especially Magical Melody. I'm gonna say that name too. I'd love to see that cast on here again. That was a fun time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, love them. Yes, we definitely have to catch up with Miracle and the gang with Magical Melody.
Yes.
Definitely want to have Miss Dream and see Serenity back, and
Yes.
we're gonna have to like stay up super late so we can catch Tetsuya Unmasked and Who Lives in Japan at a more reasonable hour. He wasn't able to stay with us the entire time because he was struggling to stay awake with us, and I'm like, oh, I wish we would have done this the other way around. Definitely want to revisit the fan fiction community.
Yes.
Definitely looking forward to having Sailor Tortilla and Brooke, and I would definitely like to invite Jerome. I think that they would be cool to have some more collectors on including Sailor Snubs. So just trying to figure that out. Cosplayers was definitely on our schedule for the first season, so we just have to go back. I think I found the original schedule, so we'll go through that to see what we can add in the coming months. But I'm really excited for this new season and resurgence of Moonlight Justice.
Woo!
So how does it feel to be back?
You know,
After everything we talked about.
it's still like a quiet little unreal feeling. Like, dang, we're here. But it's very exciting. Like just answering the questions that we asked one another throughout all of this, and just getting really hype and being reminiscent of how joyful it was to answer the questions and to talk about things and to have these ideas and stuff. Like it's really exciting, and I'm very curious to see what will be next for us.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely surreal to be back. It definitely feels right. You know, second season, 2 hosts, Double Moonlight Justice. I think that, you know, all the stars aligned for us. It was way too easy for us to do this. I think that that's kind of like what made it kind of like surreal too, where it's like everything fell into place. Like, you know, I was able to renew our domain and get our website back up. The rest stream is still working. You know, all of our episodes are still up. We still have our art, you know, and everything like that. You know, the logo came together pretty fast and easy. It wasn't like anything too strenuous on your end to get back together. The response and support has been great, so it just feels
very
like
overwhelming. Y'all are wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's like it definitely. I'm glad that we took the time to step away and come back rather than trying to force ourselves through it and trying to figure it out. And I'm kind of glad that we took a step back and came back just the 2 of us rather than trying to keep up with a guest schedule and trying to coordinate and all that. And so, you know, it's, you know, like Moonlight Justice is officially over a year old now.
Oh,
Yeah,
a year old.
Yes, our first year anniversary was the 28th of January.
Wow.
You know, it feels good. It feels right. You know, I don't feel like I was worried that if we wouldn't like, you know, like it would be awkward or out of place, but we just fell back into pace like nothing, like, you know, so I'm glad about that.
Y'all don't know that I like PGSM and the musicals. By the time we finish our second season, you're definitely gonna know now. You're gonna know.
Yes, well,
but I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up. I'm really glad to be back. I'm really excited to see, you know, who comes on and what content we put out. Because we got to work on our schedule next week. We definitely want to get this first episode on the books, and I'm glad that we did, because it's like I said, it just all the stars are aligned, everything's falling back into place. It just feels good.
It does.
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what else we come out with and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be able to expand. One thing that I'm looking forward to is hoping to like go to cons and be in person.
Yes, that would be so fun. Oh, that'd
Yes.
be so much fun.
Yes, so I'm hoping that was like one of my ultimate goals for our last season. So I'm hoping that as this season goes out and stuff like that, we can go out to cons and be able to meet other Sailor Moon fans as a unit.
As a unit. As a unit. Whooshing. You know that like Sailor Moon sound when they pose? It's like, I have to say, And then she poses, it's like, whooshing. That's us. We say something, it's whooshing.
Right. So we're going to close out this episode. Thank you for joining us. Stay true and authentic to yourselves. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Self-care is important. Drink your water. Hydrate. Smile, because you always look better when you smile.
Now she's saying it before I could.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that concludes our episode, and we will see you guys next time. See you later.
Bye. Oh my gosh. You literally said it how I do. That's actually... You're going to be saying it all the time now. I hope you know that.
Right.
That's what I mean. That's your thing. Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. You're funny. You think you're funny. Yes, smile because you look so much better when you... I don't even like how you said it how I usually say it. It's the same tone and everything. Oh my gosh. And I'm your host Z, co-host, coasting here. It's already off to a beautiful start. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll try that part again.
Yeah.
So here on Moonlight Justice, we go by 3 principles, the power of 3. We're going to practice controversy with civility. We are respectfully... Okay.
What's the third one? Don't mind me pondering.